In her song Better Days, Anastasia describes pounding the pavement, nothing breaking. You may have also heard the somewhat daunting lyric, those who waver miss their shot. I'm not sure how much of that describes Anastasia's music career right now, however. The Canadian R&B singer, raised in Montreal and Gaspé, has teamed up with Grammy-nominated Andre G.C. Fennell to create her latest EP, Best Life, an album where she does display both that determination for making it in her current career, despite someone in the title track calling her lazy, and a desire to call out those who don't treat her well. See how vicious I can be, she warns in the tune Hotel Key, adding, unwise is the guy who pries and tries to devise around me in the song Shade. So I don't know how vicious Anastasia really is or how much of that is an act, because after all, she is an actor too. If you look carefully for her, you will see her pop up for a moment in shows like Grownish and Blackish and Brooklyn Nine-Nine, SWAT, Scandal, and more. Given all she's working on, makes me wonder if people really do call her lazy. Anastasia is with me in studio. Hello there.
Hello, thanks for having me.
They call us lazy. Who called you lazy?
See, I mean, as a songwriter, I feel like we have the right to embellish every now and then. So I can't say that anyone has called me lazy specifically, but it was inspired by an argument, actually, that I had with my mom. At this point, I don't even remember what it was about. I just...
Well, the song gives a few clues. I mean, it sounds like a clash between people who are chasing the 9 to 5.
Exactly. But, what's great about our relationship is that we always end up coming to some sort of agreement, and I got a great song out of it. So
yeah. When you state in the one song, those who waver miss the shot, like that to me is a lot of pressure on one person. Like, and as you say, for a weak heart, this is not a career if you really want to pursue it for somebody who is lazy or wants to take things easy all the time. But at the same time, the idea of never being able to waver, at the idea of any opportunity being there at all the time, like that's a lot of pressure on yourself. Right?
I mean, it is a lot of pressure, but the line is not to say that, you can't ever say no or that you can't take time to think about different things. But even I myself have gone back and forth at times, just wondering whether all of the work that I've put in over the years will end up being worth it or not. But I think it's normal to have those moments of questioning.
Give me an example of the moment, a moment where you question yourself.
Well, a big one for me was my experience going through the whole U.S. immigration work visa application process.
Oh, okay.
Because following my undergraduate degree at the University of Toronto, I did a 2-year performing arts program in New York and Los Angeles. And after... once you finish studies in the States, you're allowed a 1-year, what's called OPT, which basically gives you a year to, work in your field of study. And then following that, you can apply for, a more, less temporary work visa, I guess. Yeah. And so I went through that process, and it was definitely challenging. There were a lot of ups and downs and things that didn't necessarily turn out the way that I would have hoped. But it's funny because I feel like if it weren't for that experience, I wouldn't be where I am today. And so it's just so important in the industry, to never let things like that get you down, because it is normal to have those ups and downs.
Now, do you mean physically where you are today, i.e. like you would have gone to the States and stayed there longer? No,
I don't think that I would have made as large a stride as I had in my career if, I hadn't faced that adversity.
Yeah. So, I mean, has that always been the case for you? I mean, when there is adversity, do you tend to push back, or is that something that has been learned over time, or once you committed more to the
singing? I do tend to push back, and that's something that my parents have always instilled in me. Both my parents are very hard workers, and they've had to they've had to apply the hard work all throughout their life. And so that's something that they always told my brother and I growing up, is that you can just never give up, because that's the surest way.
In arts at all, or were they?
So not professionally. They are both talented in the arts. So my mom studied ballet and piano when she was younger. She actually danced on television a few times in her younger years as well. And then my dad is a musician. My dad plays guitar. So they both ended up pursuing the medical field. They're both doctors. Okay. But yeah, I guess,
I'm getting a better sense of what that argument might have been like. Stirred all of this.
In some ways, maybe they're living vicariously through me. I don't know.
That isn't impossible, right? The other line that stands out to me is where you say it's fine, not a dime coming at me, wine, dine another time. First of all, when someone says, say it's fine, it kind of implies it's not, right? That you're needing to get past. Do you find yourself at times when things are tough needing to convince yourself, saying, oh, okay, it's fine, it's all good, everything's going to be great?
Definitely. Yeah, that was the motto at my performing arts school. Really? Okay. On the inside, you're freaking out, but there's nothing else you can do other than just, say that it's fine. And if you vocalize it, if you speak it into existence, it usually ends up being true.
Secondly, the wine, dine another time could mean rinse and repeat kind of thing, like wine and dine with the networking people one more time, let's go out and do this again. Or it could mean wine, dine another time. Which did it mean?
That's interesting. So it means the second one. I actually, I love that you just came up with a new interpretation, because I actually didn't even think of that when I was writing it. So I love when people come to me and bring different messages and tell me, that they got something out of the song that I necessarily didn't even see myself.
Right. But in this case, it did mean I'll have to do that at another point.
Yes, when I wrote it, yes.
Yeah. So you were not at the stage of the big powered network meetings.
No, I wasn't.
Okay, no, I mentioned appearing in TV shows, and it's often uncredited, right? Like the reporter in Scandal, or the bar patron in the back in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Pedestrian for the People. How do these come to you? What is the process of the extra work?
So, it works very differently depending on what city you're based in. In Los Angeles, it's extremely competitive, as I'm sure you can imagine. But I ended up getting my first acting manager in Los Angeles shortly after graduation from the program. And she, was able to help put me in place in order to, see more of an option, more of a competitive option for those kinds of roles. And, we had to go through endless submissions, but I was working very consistently, actually.
So, and I think a lot of people who aren't familiar with the industry, like that's, even for that moment of the uncredited, non-line role in one of those shows, it's that competitive,
There's
right?
Like,
are you doing lineups after lineups of like, let's see you hold that beer glass a different way?
Yes, sometimes,
really?
depending on the show. Now I'm an ACTRA apprentice union member, which is a status that I reached a few months ago, actually, with my latest acting role, which has yet to air. So I can't say too much about it.
Are you allowed to say what show?
It's on a show called My Worst Nightmare.
Oh, yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah. That's all I can say.
Okay.
But now that I'm at that level, I have an amazing agent based in Montreal. And so I get the audition appointments, and I don't have to deal with the lines, and it's great.
It's interesting, though, because the episode of Grownish that you were in, I love the show Grownish, by the way, but you are given a name for the episode. It's an episode, though, where they're talking about how desirable different races of women are. Here's some of the conversation in the episode.
And no group gets less love than black women. In fact, 82% of non-black men show some bias against black women.
Ain't this a bitch? What kind of message do you think that's sending?
The message is, we're not it.
You are for me. And black women are at the top of my list.
Now, later in that episode, there's a character who says, no, people should be dating. I only date queens. And then one character says, no, your queens are Egyptian Nubian, meaning light black girl.
Right.
And then I noticed your character is named Light Black Girl.
Black Girl,
in
yes.
the episode. How much do you relate to this idea of how different shades of women are viewed? It's a fascinating episode to watch.
Yeah, no, and that's side note. That's actually one of the reasons why I too love Grownish and Blackish, is because they discuss these kinds of issues.
It's on the table.
It is, exactly. Yeah. And I think that I'm lucky having grown up in Canada, where issues like that are less of a barrier than in other countries around the world. It's so unfortunate because, people are people. There is nothing more than one race, the human race. And it's just, you hope that everyone could learn to get along, but...
I had no idea until there was a discussion on this show where women started talking about the paper bag test, and for black women, this idea that if you could be cast, or they would relate to you more as a singer, or if your skin was not too dark, if it was just the shade of the paper bag kind of thing. And they all said it as though it was just this standard that everybody talked about, and I was completely living in my own bubble, not realizing that this was going on. But you must hear it, I'm guessing, when you're going out for things, that you are or aren't the right shade.
You do. Typecasting is very real.
Yeah.
And typecasting is an interesting thing because, it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you think about people in roles like Flo, the progressive girl, that's her role, and she is doing unbelievably well. It's worked out for her. So in that sense, sometimes you do hope to be typecast, but as far as it relates to race, it's just unnecessary and uncalled for. You just can't, let things get to you in the industry, because everyone is in their position to do their job, whether it's the director, casting director, talent, actors, singers, all of that. And so most people, whenever they say something that might be construed as being negative, don't actually mean it in a personal way. They're just saying that, you just aren't what they were looking for that day. And so what has been really helpful for me as far as auditioning in the acting world is considering the work to be the actual process of auditioning, so that once one audition is done, it's like, okay, that work is done for the day or for the moment, and you move on to the next thing. And then if you end up booking the role, then great.
That's the next piece of work.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wonder for you, when you're on the set, is there ever a temptation to hand out the CD music to the people who are there, just saying hey?
The temptation is there, yes, but you just can't. You just can't.
That would be the crossing out of the name on the list.
Then it'll be known as the girl who handed out her CDs. Oh my gosh!
That replaces the typecasting name.
Exactly.
Exactly. I understand. When the PR folks were first reaching out to us about you, it was about you being on the Grammy ballot, which, and I realized, did not mean you were nominated for a Grammy this year. But can you explain what that means? The longer list of the Grammys?
Sure. So I was shortlisted with my debut album, Best Life. And that means that of the 3,000 plus submissions that the Recording Academy received for this year's Grammy Awards, I made the second to last cut, basically. So I made it on the short list, which means that they had cut 55% of the initial submissions, and I had made it onto that list in 4 award categories.
Congratulations.
So, thank you.
Very cool.
Thank you.
That must be there's these small steps, right? These
exactly.
tiny moments.
That's the thing. And I was so grateful and so surprised because Best Life was my debut release. So it was like a pat on the back, basically. It showed me that, I'm doing something right. So.
You have a lot of very healthy ideas when it comes to approaching this industry. Anastasia,
thank you.
So nice to meet you. Congrats on all you're doing. And thanks very much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Anastasia's EP, Best Life, is out now.